Welcome to the show, Jason Bible, Texas Real Estate Radio Network. Theme of today's show is Don't Be a Loser. But I want to continue with what we were talking about yesterday. Rob and I were down in Freeport, Texas, and they had a small explosion at their LNG facility. It's amazing to me people in Texas don't know how important Freeport is. So here's the report that came out of Bloomberg. According to Bloomberg, the Freeport LNG export terminal in Texas will be shuttered for at least 3 weeks, which will impact 20% of U.S. LNG exports for the next 4 months. 20% of exports for liquefied natural gas come out of Freeport. That's absolutely crazy. So prices are doing all kinds of wild stuff right now just because of the problems that are going to come out of Freeport for this small, unexpected shutdown. So let's talk about something that's really interesting. Lots of corporate earnings reports are coming out. We should have some really interesting metrics out of the ECB today. It'll be later today. That's the European Central Bank on what they're going to do. We are in the midst of a recession. Let's go ahead and recognize that we're in the middle of a recession. Now, what most people are going to tell you is, Jason, oh my gosh, the world's ending. What's going to happen? And I talked about it on yesterday's show. And that is things are going to get a little bumpy, but they're going to get really ugly for certain Americans. And those Americans are not homeowners. Most homeowners are going to be just fine. So for those of you demented real estate investors out there that love seeing families getting thrown out of their house from foreclosure, that's not going to happen. Most families who bought houses since 2009, 75% of them have a 720 credit score or greater. And then we can infer from there that it's pretty unlikely that they're going to go to foreclosure. And let's be honest, if they do, Blackstone's just going to go in and buy a bunch of real estate anyway. Well, and Blackstone is allegedly not in real estate. But these big hedge funds and hedge funds and REITs and so forth are just going to go in and buy it all anyway. So it'll never make it to the market. But the reality is that recession is here. Now what? And what I found is people start getting scared and start doing stupid things. Recession's here. I'm selling all my real estate. Why? Inflation's here. I'm selling all my real estate. Well, why? Prices go up. This will blow your mind. Prices go up in every single recession. I was in a meeting yesterday, and we're in the middle of buying and refinancing a bunch of properties. In fact, I'm putting an offer in on another office building in Houston this week. We made the offer. I'm just waiting to hear back. We'll put the contract together next week. It will be one of I think it's going to be a phenomenal deal. I love the place. It's going to be great. I'm looking at a couple other deals right now that are going to be phenomenal. Now, most investors are freaking out. There's a recession coming, and office space is going to go to zero, and industrial, and, we're still in coronavirus land, right? I mean, there's a new variant coming out or something. I can't even keep score on coronavirus stuff. Seems like a lot of people are getting sick. Very interesting. I saw an article come across the Newswire this morning that more people are testing positive after they get the booster than the ones that don't get the booster. So this whole coronavirus thing is still unfolding. It's fascinating to watch. I guess we're just going to keep getting boosters. That doesn't make any sense. So don't panic. In fact, I love it when markets move sideways like this. Like, what's really going on? Now, I will tell you this. Nothing's really going to happen in real estate except for it's going to continue to appreciate. That's another thing I think folks have a real hard time with. Main Street and Wall Street are two totally different things. Main Street, Wall Street, and the greater economy are two completely different things. What's going on in Texas and what's going on in the rest of the world are two completely different things. We were down in Surfside yesterday. A lot of our properties are booked for the summer, and there weren't a whole lot of people down there. Of course, we were down there kind of early, but there were kids going down, getting their little snow cones. It's kind of funny. The daiquiri place also does snow cones, so hopefully they're not serving the daiquiris to the kids. Probably not, but I do think it is kind of funny. So now what? You're reading all the news. Oh my gosh, Jason, the world's going to end. Okay, now what? You've spent hours on the internet and you've spent hours in front of the TV drinking wine, becoming an expert in, quote, the marketplace, and haven't bought anything yet. World's ending. What are we going to do? I just pulled up the May report for, this came out yesterday. Houston Area Realtors, HAR. Total property sales are down 1% because we don't have any properties to sell. Active listings are up 15%, thank God. Median sales price is up 16%. You used to be able to buy the median home, meaning the middle number, the middle house in Houston, otherwise known as like the 50%. This is the house that's right there in the middle. What is it priced at? $303,000. It was about $300,000 a year ago. Today, that same house costs $351,000. Up 16%. Up 16% in a year. It's absolutely insane. The average price first broke the $400,000 mark in March 2022. This is for existing homes. The average sales price in Houston, Texas is $440,000. $440,000. Absolutely insane. My prediction was in the next 3 years, the median home price in Houston, Texas will be $425,000. We're already at $351,000. We'll be at $400,000 easily by this time next year. But there's a recession coming. Right, there's a recession coming, but it's not the same recession for everyone. I was listening to a podcast this morning, and this guy brought up a great point. He owns real estate casinos. He owns all kinds of businesses. He said, I made more money during COVID when everyone was freaking out than I ever did in my entire life combined. He makes about net about $2 million a month. When there's all this calamity and chaos in the marketplace, you can kind of be the loser with your head cut off, running around, screaming there's going to be a crash, or you can buckle down and go, all right, where are the opportunities here? We get back from the break, we're going to talk about what is going on in real estate. It's Jason Bible, Texas Real Estate Radio Network. What is it today?
Dude, I woke up just like my eyes were swollen, my nose was running. It's horrible.
We went from Pour and I went over to Drift. Yvonne had an event at Drift, and I just popped in real quick. Yeah. And I thought my voice was going out because it was kind of loud in there. There was a ton of people. It was a cool event. And I thought, maybe it's just my voice. And then this morning I woke up, and Rob was the first person I talked to, and I was like, hey, man, what's going on? I was like, so, yeah, it's all like right here. Makes talking tough. All right, let me reply to this text messages. All right, let's see. See, I still have them on for
11:45.
Yeah.
I don't know who scheduled that. That was on the calendar before I even started my job. So
Is that the one that's on Friday? No, that one's gone.
No, I think Jet. Yeah, I guess Jets might be on Friday. But there's two of them that I haven't made that are incorrect.
Hold on one second. All right. Let me pull up something real quick here.
I can't see who said this, but someone on Facebook just said, "Preach, JB."
All right. Let me. I gotta log into Housing Wire. Give me like 2 seconds. I think I'm already logged in. Let's pull up MBS News. Get that going. All right, you ready?
Ready.
Welcome back, Jason Bible, Texas Real Estate Radio Network. I'm going to keep reiterating a lot of the same stuff I've been saying over the last week. I'm going to continue to pound it in everybody's heads because a lot of the stuff that you're reading and a lot of the stuff that you're hearing doesn't make any sense. Jason, there's a recession coming. There's got to be all these foreclosures. No, there's not. You know, it's there's an old military saying, if you will, that the army of today is preparing for the next war like they did the last war. Like they assume it's going to be just like the last war. And we see this in Wall Street. We see it in business. We prepare for the next recession, assuming it's going to be just like the last one. And that's not the case. The last recession was completely different than this recession. The next recession will be, technically, no one predicted the last recession, which is what happened during COVID. We had a recession in COVID. When you shut down 90% of the country, guess what? Recession time. Nobody could have predicted that one. I didn't even predict. It was crazy. I remember back in February, and I said, guys, something's coming. And I sat on all those planning committees for the Texas Medical Center. And our response, we had these contingency plans written up. We actually practiced them too. The idea was that we would essentially cordon off the entire medical center and use Reliant as a field hospital. This is Reliant Park. It's where the Texans play. Well, play might be a strong word. Let's call it show up. They kind of show up on Sundays, occasionally on Monday night. So Reliant Park is gigantic. The Astrodome is there. So the idea is that all of the sick would start out at Reliant Park. In fact, if you guys go back to our couple of shows when it just started back in March and April of 2020, Rob was joking that he was going to end up getting COVID, end up at the field hospital, and probably wouldn't even be at the 50-yard line. He's like, they're probably going to stick me in the visitor end zone. It's going to be awful. We joked about it a lot. But the idea was we're going to set up this field hospital, and then we're going to triage. And the way the triage would work is there's 3 different types of patients. There's what you call the worried well. These people are in pretty decent shape, but they're not well enough to go home, but they're not sick enough to go into the medical center. So you would set those people aside and treat them on site. Then there would be the folks that, without a doubt, medical doubt, they ain't going to make it. And those folks would die there. That's essentially what triage is. Like you're separating the folks that have got a good chance from the folks that don't. So the second group is these people aren't going to make it. We're going to put you over here, make you as comfortable as possible, but they're going to expire. And then the third group is they're sicker than the first group, but they're not going to die like the second. They've got a really good fighting chance. Now we send them into the medical center to get the best treatment possible, to give them a real fighting chance. That was what was supposed to happen. In fact, if y'all remember, they set up that field hospital, the county did. I don't think they took any patients in. So somebody somewhere then made the executive decision that we're just going to shut down the entire country for 2 years. I still don't know how that decision got made. I don't get it. But that was the whole idea. So in order to do that, hey, we're going to have to shutter the country. All of that seems reasonable in the first couple of weeks. We're dealing with a novel virus. Let's kind of shut some things down until we can get an idea of what's going to happen. You got to remember, back then, ventilators were going to save everybody. Of course, now we know ventilators killed a lot of people. So, all right, let's figure out what we got to do here. That is a perfectly reasonable approach. But then fast forward a couple of months, and it's like we're all still locked down. Well, we weren't locked down. We were having parties at my place. I mean, it actually was a lot of fun. So we shut the entire country down. That was a recession. Nobody could have seen that. Now we're in another recession. While at the same time, inflation is running rampant. I just got a note through one of my groups that my Cybertruck won't be ready until 2023, if not 24. And I'm like, geez, gas is going to be $9,000 a gallon at that point, so that'll be perfect. But I'm like, do I just get some little electric car to zip around town in? And then you look at Tesla's website and you look at the lead times. It's ridiculous. In fact, I'm texting with a guy right now over at Lexus, and he's like, we're not even doing custom builds right now. So with Toyota, whenever I would order something from Toyota, like my truck, love Toyota trucks, I would literally send them the build sheet. My guy would go, okay, cool, send us a deposit, $500,000, $5,000, whatever it is. Send us a deposit, we'll call you in a couple months. And sure enough, 2 or 3 months later, they call me, hey, your TRD Pro's ready. Come pick it up. If you don't want it, cool, we'll send your deposit back, or we'll just sell it to somebody else today. I'm like, okay, but show up, looks good, cool, take it. This supply chain thing is a real issue. I'm hearing some rumors that we're having problems, the United States is having problems getting industrial products. And that's pretty scary. If you're looking at some of these plants, manufacturing facilities, petrochemical facilities, if they can't get products that they need to do their turnarounds, which is really maintenance work, what are the implications there? If they can't get the products that they need to ensure those things are running safely, that's a huge problem with our infrastructure. So we're going to be in this weird world where there's a recession while at the same time prices are going to be increasing. And I don't see that changing anytime soon. So we're probably going to have to do without certain groups of people. This is what hollowing out, and if you've not heard this term before, this is exactly what it is. This is what hollowing out the middle class looks like. I will tell you right now, I have no clue what gas costs. In fact, here's what I do know. I notice that at different gas stations, I get cut off at different price points. Sometimes it's $85, sometimes it's $100, sometimes $125, sometimes it's $150. I have no idea what gas costs. All I know is, damn it, I can't fill the truck all the way up on one swipe. There are a lot of Americans that are watching gas prices very closely because inflation is killing them. Part of that has to do, and a lot of those folks are in the middle class. We had a guy in our group one time say, the middle class are just poor people with good jobs. And I was like, ooh. Because if this is impacting you, we got to build a strategy around surviving what the next 24 months looks like. It's Jason Bible, Texas Real Estate Radio Network. It's just such an emotional topic.
It's just so
Oh, God. I am completely, I can't keep it together. I literally cannot breathe. Like I'm talking through my nose. Okay, cool. I got to shoot the Lexus guy an email. All right, welcome back. Jason Bible, Texas Real Estate Radio Network. I've got no idea what gas costs. I have no clue. But a lot of Americans do. I don't know what the taxes are on my house. I don't know what. You just write the check. But the middle class is going to be eviscerated. They're going to be completely hollowed out. Here's what I'll tell you. I was listening to the new Ricky Gervais special on Netflix. It is spectacular. It is highly offensive in the cheeky way that he is. If you don't know who Ricky Gervais is, he's the guy that actually invented The Office, which started in the UK before it came here to the United States. And he played Michael, whatever his name is. Michael Scott. So hilarious, absolutely hilarious. You've got to watch it. At one point, he says something so funny. He starts talking about, hey, we got to support minorities. It's 5% that, 5% this. And he goes, I'm a, white male multimillionaire, and there's less than 1% of us, which was hilarious. It was the way he delivers it is so funny. Folks like us are going to be, granted, our material costs go up, but guess what? We just go buy another building. We just go buy another house. We just go buy another storage facility. I'm whining and crying over here because it's going to take 2 years for me to get a car that I'm probably going to put 3,000 miles a year on. Then there's an entire class of folks who, don't get me wrong, they work hard. And they're watching their 401k just get eviscerated by 30% over the last 6 months. Like, just got absolutely knocked down. My portfolio is up 16% year to date. The folks that invest in our funds and syndications, the cash flow is okay, but the equity in these things is ridiculous. You've got to think here. This is why I think real estate is one of the best investments out there. In part because I can use leverage. Someone is going to lend me money for 30 years. They're going to lend me money for 30 years. So I'm going to pay them back over 30 years with money that is worth less than what they're lending to me today. In fact, if I've got a bit of equity in these properties, I have no money in these deals. If I have no money in the deal, what's my rate of return? It's infinite. How do you beat infinite? This is what happens when I get in discussion with investors that do notes, or they do. Now, passive is a little bit different. I'm talking about active investing. They're doing Bitcoin, they're doing whatever it is they're doing. I'm like, what do you... I don't understand what the problem is. Like, it's just simple math. How do you beat an infinite rate of return? And the question is, you can't. So if I buy a single family house, we were actually at one yesterday. If you guys go to my Facebook page, Rob and I did a couple of videos in Surfside. One of them was a property we bought, 100, 110, put 40, 50 grand into it. I don't know. We're into it 160, 170. Honestly, I don't even know. The stupid thing just appraised at $300,000. No money in the deal. $100,000+ in equity. Can you buy 10 of those in a year and make $1 million? Absolutely. And that deal was on MLS. Everyone's like, Jason, there's no deals. Like, there's secret, like, honey hole of deals. I'm like, dude, it was on MLS for like 3 months. Everybody passed on it. I just signed another contract for a deal yesterday. I think it's a duplex, if I'm not. I got to be honest with you. I remember saying buy it, and I don't even remember it. I just got an email from our agent. Hey, the first offer, the first contract fell through. We're the backup. They said we'll take it. Okay, sign it. I don't even remember the property. I went and walked a deal. I walked 3 deals this week. It's so funny. You can tell who are the professionals and who aren't. Because we're not sitting there talking about interest rates and the economy and all that. We walk a building in 30 minutes ago. Okay, cool. Sounds good to me. Let's buy it. Like the pros can walk around and go, this looks pretty good. What are the numbers again? Okay, yeah, let's do it. Nobody in my peer group is whining and crying about interest rates. Now, we're really concerned about government overreach. That's a big concern. But no one's whining and crying about interest rates or a recession or all these foreclosures coming. What are we going to do? There is none of that kind of talk. Because by and large, real estate really isn't impacted by recessions. Don't get me wrong. You may have some tenants move out, commercial, residential. Your turnover might be a little bit higher for 6 months. As folks lose jobs, find new jobs, maybe they need to get into a lower priced home, lower lease home. But then again, Houston's countercyclical. So we've got jobs galore over here. So your tenant moves out, you got another one coming right after them. So this talk like the world's going to end and there's going to be this foreclosures and it's going to be like 2008 all over again. I'm like, it's not. Every recession is different. Every real estate market is different. I mean, we have in Houston, let me give you guys some numbers. We have 1.6 months of inventory. That means if not a single new house is listed for sale, it would take 1.6 months to sell everything in this marketplace. We typically see price reductions, meaning a dip in values at 10 months of inventory. We currently have 24,000 active listings in Houston. We would have to increase that number to over 200,000 active listings to get to 10 months of inventory. Like, those numbers don't even make sense. Or we'd have to have property sales go from 12,000 sales a month to 1,100 to start seeing reductions in prices. Is it probable? Sure. There's a probability there, 0.00001%. Is it possible? No. Absolutely not. I had to pull up, this would be interesting. 2020, let's go look at the April report, because that would tell us what was going on in March. Yeah, when we were shut down for COVID, we still sold 9,000 homes a month. Wow, those are the good old days. Hey, Clayton, those were the good old days, man. Back in March 2019, the median home sales price was $240, and today it's $350. March 2019 to today, $110,000 in equity. It's 30%. Absolutely crazy. Absolutely crazy. We get back from the break. We're going to talk about strategies coming up in this new recession, the new market. It's not really new. I'm just trolling people on Facebook. It's Jason Bible, Texas Real Estate Radio Network. This is number 3, right?
This is the last one coming up.
Oh, this is the last one? Okay. Welcome back, Jason Bible, Texas Real Estate Radio Network. Oh, the ECB is coming out. What is she saying? All right, Lagarde is out. ECB statement, traders have moved rate hike expectations to around 150 bips by December 2022. Interesting. Markets are pricing in a 25 bip increase in July and about a 40% chance of a 50-point move, and pricing the 25 bip hike for September, December, as well as one each quarter thereafter until the main refinancing rate hits 1.5%. My gosh, they can't even they can't even get rates. This is the European Central Bank. They can't even get rates up to 1.5%. I truly believe this. There's a lot of data out there that says this is the case. One of the things I find fascinating is when somebody says, Jason, you understand there's a crash coming because inflation and interest rates, world is ending. And we got to increase rates because the world is ending and that should stop inflation. And I'm like, okay, well, what's the difference between now and 1970, 1980? Are these two worlds even the same? The United States was the only real economic superpower in the early 80s. There really wasn't any other player. Well, fast forward to today. We got a dozen we got at least 6 economic superpowers. There is a lot of research from some really smart, critical thinking folks, and I'm beginning to believe this. And that is, you can increase rates to the moon, and it's not going to stop inflation. If you want to stop inflation, you have to do 2 things at this point. Increase rates to the moon and shut down government spending. And guess what? Those 2 moves are done by adults. There are no adults in Washington. There's no adults in Texas. You know, I love it when here in Texas, we excoriate these guys in Washington. It's too much government debt. It's not good for America. And I'm like, well, where do you live, Katie? All right, so did you just vote for that new bond initiative to build another football stadium? Oh, yeah, you know, athletics and all that are important. You built how much of that football stadium, which, by the way, you voted for the bonds. You voted for more debt for a place to play football. So let's stop beating up Washington. Let's start here at home first. Why are my property taxes so high? Oh, I don't know. Maybe because we need a new super huge stadium? I mean, why do you think your property taxes are so high? Do we really need all this stuff? Like, it starts to get kind of ridiculous. But looking at the landscape here, you've got 2 things you've got to do. Reduce government spending to about 0 and increase rates to the moon, which require adults. And we're headed into a midterm election. I can tell you no one's doing that. And then right after midterms is when the campaigning starts for the presidential race. It'll be a full 2-year campaign. This one's going to be for all the marbles. Because there's a lot of rumors out there that they're not going to run Joe for a second term. I don't know what that means. I don't know how that's going to work. I don't think the Democrats have a clue who they're actually going to run. And I think the Republicans are just as bad. Honestly, I could care less about politics. I used to like it. I used to think it was fascinating. Something happened to me after the election, and then when Rush Limbaugh died, I got to the point where I'm like, I just don't care. This is not fun anymore. I used to enjoy it because it's kind of funny. What's the old joke? If you're too ugly for Hollywood, you go into politics. I used to think some of this stuff is fascinating. Now it's just all partisan nonsense. If you don't agree with the conservatives, then you're, some kind of fascist or something. And then, if you don't agree with these guys, you're evil and want to kill children. I mean, it just gets so ridiculous. It's like you can't even have an adult conversation. So I learned years ago, because I feel like the collective intelligence of the political class is just, bombing like Joe Biden's approval rating, that I've just gotten to the point where I'm like, you know what? I'm going to get so rich, I'm just not going to care. And then you guys can all fight it out. I'm through trying to figure out or trying to change the rules of the game. I'm on a text thread right now with some of the biggest landlords, single family and multifamily, in Houston. And a lot of these guys own stuff all around the state. And I woke up this morning and they're all fired up about, hey, let's donate to this group because for this political cause, and we'll do. And I'm like, guys, who cares? Like, let's just get so rich. Who cares? I hear a lot of people talking about, prepping for doomsday and the big reset and all. And I'm like, none of that's going to work. Building your bunker in the woods, saving hundreds of thousands of rounds of ammunition, and storing 10 years of canned food is not going, you're not going to survive what happens next. You know how you survive what happens next? You get really rich and influential. Because influential, wealthy people can bend the rules. You want to have a massive network. That's all I do all day is build my network. If things aren't working out here, I'm getting on a plane and going somewhere else. How many passports do you have? It's not about just being wealthy. It's really about being influential and having real connections across the globe. I'm not talking about, hey, I got a friend of mine in Germany I can go see. We can hang out in his, apartment. That's not what I'm talking about. I mean, do you have real connections? Can you fly to another country and start a business? Can you fly to another country that's locked down for COVID and they let you in? That, if you really want to get to the whole anti-fragile, if you guys are familiar with that term, you need to be able to one day get up, disappear, and reappear somewhere else while translating all of your success into that same place. Because what happens next is not going to be fun. Like, let's be honest, have things really gotten that much better? I mean, don't get me wrong, our cell phones are better, computers are cooler, cars are faster, but society as a whole, has that gotten a whole lot better? It really hasn't. I don't see it improving anytime soon. I mean, this isn't a show for social commentary. I'm going to start a whole nother podcast about that. But society's a mess. We pejoratively call it the Matrix. All these people on Facebook getting worked up about the economy and taxes and Biden and all. I'm like, who cares? Get so successful that the next recession, you just become more wealthy. And then when the recession's over and you're in recovery, you're getting even more wealthy. Oh, we went from Trump to Biden. Guess what? I made even more money. Who cares? Or we could sit there and talk about the middle class. The only reason I talk about that on this show, because a lot of y'all are there. And you're trying to, and you know something's wrong. That's the other thing. You know something's wrong, but you don't know what to do. Like you're locked up in the soul-crushing corporate job, maybe in a relationship that you don't want, and you're looking around going, what in the hell am I doing here? How did I get here? And in the back of your mind, there's this small voice that's screaming at you, something's really wrong. I need to get out. And you just don't know how. I'll tell you, step one is start making some real money in something like real estate. You lose your job, no big deal. I got real estate. Something happens, you got to move. Maybe you live in one of these blue states that's turned into a defund the police hole. And you're like, you look at your wife and kids, hey, we're out of here. We're not doing this. We're moving to Texas. Why do you think everybody's moving to Texas? They may not like the gun culture and all that, but it's pretty darn safe down here. A lot of folks moving in from blue states because they're like, well, nobody's marching in my yard. Schools haven't been completely run into the ground. So I don't know. I was hoping to give you guys a little bit more cheery message, but it's one of these things that I keep running across. I'm like, these folks have negative lives, and you wonder why. Is it because you don't have any other options? Because that's what real wealth is. Wealth is options and opportunities. It's not money. Once you start making money, you start looking around and realizing how unimportant it is. Thanks for listening. It's Jason Bible, Texas Real Estate Radio Network.